Hey guys, buckle up. We're about to talk about our educational psychology class.
Yes, we are very excited too. This is for our portfolio. So first, we're just going to work from the bottom up. So the first learning outcome that we're going to talk about is apply teaching strategies and approaches that address the ways individual students learn. And the related assignment that we did in class with that is the 15 to 20 minute class lead to discuss our Pechacucha. So I think that this was a really great way for us to be able to get this outcome because this was my first time actually like preparing something for a class, even though it wasn't a class of 6th grade students for English. It was still something I had to think about and sit down and plan. And I think that's a really important part of teaching that we don't think about that much. It's more just like get the material across, but you have to really sit down and think about what you're going to do and how you're going to get your message across. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I found it very interesting to do because I've done it in the past at my previous university, and it is a little bit challenging trying to figure out what you're seeing in your brain and how you want to do things, but then you also have to keep in mind, is this actually going to be productive? Is it going to be getting your message across that you want to either your peers or your students about what you were talking about, and making sure that you're not boring them, but they're still getting the information that you want to give them. Mm-hmm. And so I found it very helpful because you are as students wanting to become teachers, you think, oh, this is going to be so much fun, and it really is, but going into the planning factor, you do have to take a step back for it and actually be okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. How am I going to do this? So that way it's enjoyable, but you're still learning.
Yeah, and I think to connect it to something we learned in class is the Gardner's 8 types of intelligence. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're planning these lessons too, you have to think about how can I cater to all of these students that have all these different types of strengths and weaknesses so we can bring out the best in all of them. Mm-hmm. So I think that learning that also helped me realize just how much thought has to go into planning to be able to do something like that successfully.
Yeah, and I feel there's so many easy ways to make it fun and educational. I did a Kahoot. One of our classmates did a Jeopardy and type situation, and so just making those things fun and entertaining, you're learning without even realizing that you're learning. And I think that's amazing.
And it gives students more motivation. It's extrinsic motivation if they get a reward for doing it. If their team wins, they get candy or something like that. Right. So that's another factor in helping them learn those things.
Definitely.
So the next one is understand the basic interrelationships and interactions between planning, instruction, and assessment. And this was through the portfolio.
Which is what we're doing right now.
Yes.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I had something in my brain and now it went away. But okay. So with this, I think it's really, really important to obviously you have to plan and you have to instruct and you have to give assessments to your future students or students that you have. And I think it's really important that you take the time to plan and then you teach. And then if the teaching isn't going how you thought it was going to go back to that planning period. And it's just a revolving circle. Plan, instruct, and then you give an assessment. If they're not doing so hard on assessment, maybe you need to take a step back and then go over so that way they're actually understanding, or even in the instruction period of whether it's a lecture or you're doing stuff in the classroom that's group work or something, making sure that they actually understand what your point and what the curriculum they need to know by the end for their assessment, to make sure that they are understanding, they are retaining that information in not just their short-term memory but their long-term, so that way they're able to retrieve it and everything. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and we can relate that to, I guess, what we're doing in our portfolio. This portfolio takes a lot of planning.
Yes.
And it's not, I had something that I thought I was going to do in my portfolio, and it didn't go how I thought it was going to look in the portfolio. So I had to go back and think, okay, how can I plan this to make it all fit? And I don't know really if we're doing any type of instruction in this portfolio. I wouldn't.
I think our instruction is just like our little text boxes explaining stuff.
Yeah,
or like
yeah, I do agree with that.
And like our Bitmoji, I guess the only instruction is like we have to have 3 like hyperlinks, and then we have to have a brief description about what the hyperlink is. So like in mine personally, like I have like CNN 10, the 50 Nifty song for the 50 United States. So, and then I also have We the People from the Declaration of Independence, a video hyperlinked into my Bitmoji classroom, so that way, like, if you were to click on it, you don't know the importance of the We the People.
Yeah.
And like that preamble, you get like a quick like 5-10 minute video about it, and so that way it's like it's quick, but you're also, it gets the point across to it.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like this one's like kind of self-explanatory, like planning, instruction, and assessment. I feel like if you want to be a teacher, like you have to understand that like you're gonna have to plan, you know? Like, yeah. I don't know. That just feels like,
if there's poor planning, then you're not gonna have good instruction. If you don't have good instruction, you're gonna have bad assessments, and then that's not only going to be bad for the kids, it's gonna be bad for the teacher.
Yeah, it's gonna be a chaotic classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is explain principles of classroom management. And this is also done in the portfolio. I also think this was kind of done in the class lead too, because I think part of classroom management is keeping your students engaged. So we had to keep our class engaged for 15 to 20 minutes about something they already knew. It wasn't like a brand new topic.
Right.
So we had to keep them engaged, make it fun. So that's part of classroom management, is making a lesson, planning a lesson to keep your students engaged so you don't have your class going off track.
Yeah. That I really don't have anything else to add besides like if you can't manage your classroom, you're not going to be successful as a teacher. And if you can't, like that's how I feel personally about that, but like classroom management, it is going to be hard. It is going to be challenging whether or not you have future students that are going to be a little bit more demanding of certain areas, and that's perfectly fine because that will be how they learn. And I feel like us as teachers and future educators, that like we need to be able to tend to those certain needs for certain students, so that they are able to succeed.
Yes. I really like the exercise we did in class that day whenever we were talking about it, like talking about like good types of classroom management, like bad types, like all the different types. There are so many ways to do classroom management, and I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think there are things that each teacher needs to know how to do, but what works in someone's classroom might not work in someone else's classroom. I feel like classroom management isn't exactly something that's taught. It's kind of something you have to figure out yourself as a teacher. Like there are things you're like told, but like
obviously you're going to have classroom management that you get from like your school district that you have to follow. But I definitely think like in your own classroom, your classroom management is going to be like a personal preference of how you do things like outside of what you're supposed to do as a teacher.
Okay, the next one is explain major theories of motivation, and our related assessment is the portfolio. So the thing that I think about with the portfolio is the study habit video we have to make, the Leemsen essay that we have to discuss. I think those are the two big things that tie us to motivation. The Leemsen essay about the studying and being a student, that is finding like extra or intrinsic motivation within yourself to like be a good student and do more than just show up to class. And then the study habit theory, I think, is also kind of intrinsic motivation. Like, what do you do? But I kind of use extrinsic motivation whenever I study. Like, I'll study really hard for a test, and like if I get a good grade on the test, or like a satisfactory grade for like myself, like I will go get myself something like small, not like big.
Coffee. Mine's coffee. If like for me it's something small, like I woke up and like I actually did what I planned out to do, because like, and I think a lot of this is like with our research paper, because I know for me personally, like mine was based off of procrastination, and it was a self-study. I'm a major procrastinator to this day, and I did well like with my self-study, and like I see improvements. They're like itty-bitty baby ones, but they're there. And so I think like for me personally, extrinsic motivation is a big help. Like, okay, I gave myself 45 minutes to study for this, or okay, after work, after I eat dinner, like those were my breaks. I need to get my homework done, do my studying and everything, and then I can have some ice cream or something.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like motivation is definitely personal, but as a teacher, you have to find those ways for your students, because it is not always one size fit all.
Yeah, and we're going to be middle school teachers, and a lot of middle school teachers aren't motivated, so we're going to have to really work on that.
We both know that candy's not the best option.
No.
But me personally, I think it's the most effective.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, with Kahoot, if you get top 3, like 3 bonus points to the first person, 2 to the second, and then 1 to the third.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's reasonable, but then like obviously you can have like, oh, that's unfair and everything. So like you do have to be mindful what you're going to do for extrinsic motivation in your classroom.
Yeah. So we are already at 11 minutes and we only have 20 minutes to talk. So I'm going to breeze through the last 3 on this page. Not that they're any less important, but I want to get all of the learning outcomes in. So recognize the importance of diversity in individuals and community. This includes language, socioeconomic status, exceptionalities, etc., to better understand students. And this was shown through our case studies and portfolio. Not really sure how this is shown through the portfolio, but I think this was really helpful to see in the case studies, because we were given situations that personally I never would have thought about, that are very like real situations. Especially like socioeconomic status. Like, it's not something I think about, that some people are more privileged than others. It's just one of those things that I've never really thought about. And language too is a big thing. We have more and more people like in our school districts that don't know how to speak English. And so it honestly makes me want to like learn other languages, so I'm able to help understand them and make them feel welcome. So I don't know what you have to say about that, but
I do know in one of our like class lead stuff, whenever we had to do arpeggiacuchas, I don't remember exactly who did it, but I do remember like in their videos, like they had with certain classrooms, like they had specific, or it might have just been a video that we watched.
No, it was a arpeggiacucha.
It was?
Yeah.
Who was it?
I don't remember.
Was it Lily?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't remember. I'm so sorry. If you're watching this, I am so sorry. I forget who it was. But like they had like with certain, like they had like some Spanish speaking students that only spoke Spanish. And so I like, if you're a teacher and you don't like speak fluent Spanish, or like have like the basic Spanish like comprehension, then that's going to be a little bit hard for you to communicate not only to the student but to the student's parents, because if the parents don't understand, that can create a whole bunch of problems. So like just making sure that you have the resources in your school for those kids and everything, just to make sure they are welcome, they feel that they are understanding, and that they are able to learn and succeed. And I just think there's little things we can do in our classroom, like putting up posters of different types of families. Like, it's not all going to be white families, just stuff like that. Little things. Okay, next, explain major theories of learning, cognitive, behavioral, and social. This was shown in the case studies and the portfolio. This was shown in the case studies. Isn't this like all Vygotsky and Piaget, like with cognitive stuff?
Yeah, this is like all about the development. In the case studies, again, like we didn't only see like differences in socioeconomic status, we also saw differences in like how students learn. And that's another thing to think about, like going back to the different types of intelligence, how everyone is so different. And at the different stages, like at Piaget, they're going through the different life crises that we have to think about and take into consideration as they're learning. And also, was this Piaget? No, Erikson is the life crises. Erikson's the life crises. Piaget is the different stages, like the concrete operational, like understanding that like there is a certain level that our students need to be at whenever they're in middle school, but they might not all be.
Yeah, and that's perfectly okay. And then that's what IEPs and like their specific learning stuff is for, just to make sure, again, our goal as future educators is to make sure that like our future students are able to succeed.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Explain major theories of human development, including cognitive, social, emotional, and the development across the lifespan in the context of teaching and learning. So kind of just backboarding on what I just said earlier, we have to think about the development. Everyone's going to be in different stages. I mean, even like whenever we're teaching, like we might have kids that are in this stage, but right down the hall, there's kids in a completely different other stage. Like we might have to interact with them too. So just understanding where our students are at, and that was also shown in the case study. So that's important to keep in mind as we're learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Recognize that all students can learn. This was shown in the portfolio reflection, class engagement, and disposition assessment.
I guess this is like goes into like that all students are different. They're all gonna learn differently, whether like some students are more hands-on or visual or listening, more of a lecture based, or if those kids are more like, okay, I need to be in person like for a class to be actually able to learn, or they learn better whether it's online, so you can send them lecture videos and stuff. But again, like for us specifically for middle school, it is going to be more, okay, today like we have to go over this, but how are we feeling today? Are we able to sit through lecture? If not, we need to recognize, okay, we need to mix things up like on the spot. Let's get into some group work and do what we need to do to get the curriculum across. So that way the students are engaged. That's like, again, that's our main priority, keeping them engaged, making sure they're learning that curriculum and everything.
Yeah, and I think this goes into like also like boosting our students' self-esteem and helping their self-efficacy, because if we recognize that all students can learn and we instill that belief into them, then I feel as if they'll have a higher chance of believing that they can too and that they can succeed and do their best. So that's kind of part of the hidden curriculum that we talked about earlier in the beginning, recognizing that all students can learn and just helping with self-esteem and different things like that. Isn't something we're taught in school, but it's something that we're going to have to do whenever we are teachers.
Yeah, and I think that dips into like our behavioral, like whether that's, what was it? We looked at the Cookie Monster, like regulation stuff and everything. I'm gonna just put a Cookie Monster in my classroom.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Let's watch the Cookie Monster video.
Yeah.
But I think that's another big part of it, like for students and for us, like making sure that we're identifying like the behavioral stuff, whether it's good or bad, and that it goes into motivation. What can I do for my future students? Like what can I do for myself to help my students? So.
And then lastly, explain effective learning strategies, like study strategies. And this goes into goals and plans, portfolio reflection, the LEAMS and essay.
So with the goals and plans, we had to write a goal setting timeline, and like we had to create like our own little schedule and everything. And I'm pretty boring as a person, unfortunately. I go to class, I go to work, and I hang out with my friends or my family. That's
me too.
All I do.
That's my life.
And so I'm working 20 to 30 hours a week. And so now that winter break is coming up, those hours are going to get knocked up. So, and then with classes, it is, you need to know how to balance everything. That's very important with like effective learning strategies, because if you can't balance your like school, work, and home life, then everything, the puzzle isn't going to fit together. So just like for me personally with learning strategies, I am a very much like in-person like learner. Like if I'm not like there in person, then I tend to struggle a little bit more. But another thing is like I said before, I am more of an extrinsic. That was a good one.
Nice. Wow, points.
So we got like, I'm more of an extrinsic motivational learner, but every now and then, like with my self-study with my research paper, it was definitely intrinsic of like looking inward to myself and be like, okay, why am I doing this? Why is it so bad? how can I help this, because it's just going to benefit me overall with trying to figure out why I procrastinate. And I procrastinate just not only because I get overwhelmed and have anxiety, but just because everybody's a little bit lazy, and that's okay.
Yeah. Study strategies for me, I'm super big on rehearsal. I will sit and rehearse, like certain subjects like math, like I will sit down and do problems over and over again, but other subjects like social studies or science, like where there's key terms, like I will rehearse over and over and over again about what I know to remember it. And maybe that is part of, like, that's kind of brain dumping a little bit sometimes, because sometimes I'll have it all in my head and then I forget. So I don't know if it's the most effective strategy, but we learned through the goals and plans that it's important to set goals academically and in life. So, and in the Leamson essay, it again talked about different ways to not just show up and be a student, but how to be a good student and do your best. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, overall, like, that if you find what works for you, like, as a student, like, you can take that into your teaching and be like, hey, like, I used to be a student too, like, this is what helped me, maybe it can help you. If not, we are able to find different ways to help you.
Yeah.
So
it'll help us relate to our students.
Yeah, and relating to our students is, like, a big thing that we went over in class, and I think it is very important, because if just finding little ways to relate to them, or making the curriculum that you are teaching, whether it's math, history, science, English, like anything, make it relatable to them or relevant to the students. Like, okay, this, I'm doing history for middle school. Yes, this happened so many years ago, but every now and then history does repeat itself. So what can we do to make it not repeat itself?
Yeah.
And so, and then just showing them different ways to learn is okay, and everything else. And then
Yeah. Okay, so those are our student learning outcomes, and I would say that we met all of our student learning outcomes through the big assignments we did this year. It was a bit stressful at times, a lot of work, but we got through it. We are at the end. We have completed educational psychology, so
this is our last class.
It is our last class today.
Today's our last class.
Yes. Okay, so thank you for watching our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and you learned a little bit about what we did during this semester. Okay, bye.
Bye.